In today's video, I'll be talking about some of the lesser known or the uncommon uses of the word so. Well, you can use the word so to avoid repetition. So instead of repeating an adjective or an adverb or even a whole clause, what you can do instead of repeating these things is to use the word so. For example, when you say, the workers were very angry and they had every right to be so. This means that they had every right to be angry. But instead of repeating the adjective angry, we said they had every right to be so. So instead of repeating the adjective, we use the word so. Another example. John took the work seriously, and Petra even more so. I'm using the word so in this sentence instead of repeating the adverb seriously. So the sentence could have been originally, John took the work seriously and Petra even more seriously. But rather than repeating the adverb seriously, we use the word so. One more example. Bob is giving us a lift. Well, at least I presume so. So the original sentence would have been, Bob is giving us a lift. Well, at least I presume he is giving us a lift. But instead of repeating the clause, he is giving us a lift, we just use the word so, which means that we say, Bob is giving us a lift. Well, at least I presume so. Okay, so the first lesser known or the first uncommon use I'm talking about in today's video for the word so is to use it to prevent or to avoid repeating an adjective or an adverb or an entire clause in your sentence. And that's very important to improve the style of your speaking or of your writing, because repetition and redundancy makes the style more tedious, more boring, and poorer. But if you try to use some techniques to evade any repetition or redundancy, that will definitely enhance the style of your writing or speaking and the impact or the impression it makes on the reader or the speaker. Another uncommon use of the word so is to use it instead of the word yes. We do that in short sentences in order to show our agreement to what has just been said. So somebody said something, you want to show your agreement to what they have just said. So instead of saying yes in your short sentence, you use the word so. Let's take a couple of examples. Speaker A says, Jack and Martha are here. The other speaker, speaker B, says, so they are, which means yes, they are. Using so in this short sentence indicates that the second speaker agrees with the first speaker that this couple, Jack and Martha, are there. So, speaker 1 said, Jack and Martha are here. Speaker 2 replies by saying, so they are, which means yes, they are. Another example, a dialogue between two speakers, speaker 1 and speaker 2. So speaker 1 says, your bike has been moved. Your bike has been moved. Speaker 2 answers by saying, so it has. I wonder who's done it. This means, yes, it has. I wonder who's done it. So speaker 2 agrees with what speaker 1 has just said about speaker 2's bike being moved. So when speaker 1 said, your bike has been moved, speaker 2 answers by saying, so it has, which is equivalent to yes, it has, and then he shows his surprise or her surprise if speaker B is a woman by saying, I wonder who's done it. Another point which I want to make regarding the word so, sometimes we use so in a certain grammatical pattern, which is you begin your sentence with the pronoun it as the subject, and then you use a verb, and then you use the word so. A very famous example for this pattern is when you say, I think so. By the way, the subject could be it or could be I. So you have a subject, it doesn't matter. Let's not cling on the pronoun itself. Let's say that you are using so in this sentence, in this grammatical pattern, with the structure beginning with any pronoun as a subject, and then the verb of that pronoun or that subject in general, and then the word so. In order to make the negative of that pattern, you replace the word so with the word not. So, if you say, I think so, the negative form of that is I think not. Some people might argue, but you can negate it by saying, I don't think so. Perfect. That's perfectly right. I do not argue with you in that. But I'm just giving you another form of negating this pattern or this grammatical structure. You can do that by replacing the word so with the word not. So instead of saying, I believe so, you say, I believe not. I reckon so, I reckon not. I suppose so, I suppose not, and so forth. Let's take another example. Two speakers talking to each other. Speaker A asks the other speaker by saying, did Alice hear you? So speaker B replies by saying, it appears not, which means it doesn't appear so. So as you can see, the pattern, subject, followed by a verb, followed by the word so, is negated. This structure or this pattern is negated by replacing the word so with the word not. Also, we can use so with an auxiliary verb, a helping verb, particularly the different forms of the verb do, instead of repeating a verb phrase. When we say a verb phrase, this means all the words making up the verb in a sentence. So when you say, she's writing a letter, is writing is the verb phrase. When you say, we will have arrived together, this is called the verb phrase. So you can use a form of verb to do plus the word so instead of repeating a whole verb phrase. For example, she won the competition in 1997 and she seems likely to do so again this year. You see, do so. So that's verb to do followed by the word so. We are using this to replace the verb phrase win the competition. Originally, the sentence could have been, she won the competition in 1997 and she seems likely to win the competition again this year. But rather than repeating win the competition one more time, we just said she seems likely to do so. Another example. When he was asked to check his figures or to check the figures, he claimed that he had already done so. You see, we're using the past participle of the verb do, which is done, followed by the word so. We did that to avoid repeating the verb phrase, which is check the figures. Originally, if we haven't done that, the sentence would have been, when he was asked to check the figures, he claimed that he had already checked the figures. But rather than repeating the clause or the verb phrase, checked the figures, we only replaced it with done so. So we said, when he was asked to check the figures, he claimed that he had already done so. We are using one of the forms of verb to do with the word so. You can use only do rather than do so after modal verbs. So if you want to avoid repetition after a modal verb, you don't use the word so, and you only use one form, which is do, because after modals we have to use the infinitive of the verb, and the infinitive of do is do. So if you want to avoid repetition after a modal, you just use do rather than do so. For example, two speakers are speaking to each other. So speaker one asks, will this program work on your computer? Speaker B answers by saying, it should do, rather than saying, it should do so. So after modals, it's preferable to use do alone rather than using do so. By the way, you can replace this pattern, do so, with some other colloquial or informal patterns like do it, or do that, or do this. For example, Mrs. Bakewell waved as she walked past. Mrs. Bakewell waved as she walked past. She does so, that's the formal way of saying it, or you can say she does it, she does that, she does this every morning. So you can say she does so, which is the normal pattern we're handling today, using a form of verb to do followed by the word so, or you can change this a little bit formal pattern into more colloquial or informal patterns by saying she does it, or she does this, or she does that every morning, rather than saying she does so every morning. So to wrap up what we have said or what we have explained in today's episode, we were talking about some of the lesser known or the less common or the uncommon uses of the word so. I call on you as the audience of this channel, if the content appeals to you, please subscribe to the channel. Let's grow the community of our channel. Interact with the video via liking it or leaving a comment down there in the comment box. I'd be more than pleased to respond to your comments, suggestions, or remarks. Let's wrap it up here and let's call it a video. I thank you very much for your attentive listening, and I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Enjoy the rest of your day, my friends, and goodbye for now.